On the last episode of Sailing Santorini, we sailed for 2 days and nights non-stop in challenging conditions from Southport on Australia's Gold Coast to Lady Musgrave Island, where we relaxed for a few days, explored the island and snorkeled on the reef. On this episode, we island hop up the southern Great Barrier Reef to the coal mining town of Mackay, visiting the islands of North West, Great Keppel and Middle Percy, covering a distance of 280 nautical miles. After our enjoyable time at Lady Musgrave, we set off northwest up the Capricorn group of islands in benign conditions towards Northwest Island, where we anchored for the night and enjoyed a beautiful sunrise and a large number of manta rays blowing bubbles on the surface. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to capture that on camera. Northwest Island was in the early 1900s home to a cannery where turtle meat was processed and shipped to the UK for consumption. In 1994, it was recognised as a national park. From northwest we headed west to Great Keppel Island. On the way we had to motor as we had no wind, and whilst the scenery was spectacular, we saw dozens of sea snakes swimming on the surface of the water miles out to sea. Needless to say, it totally put us off jumping off the back of the boat for a swim. Great Keppel Island lies 15 kilometres off the Queensland coast and has had a checkered past. Prior to European settlement, the island was home to the indigenous people. European settlers sadly killed or removed most of the indigenous population by the end of the 19th century, and during its early European history, the island was used to raise sheep. In the 1960s, a tourist resort was built together with an airport. With its beautiful beaches, clear water and walking trails, the island was a popular tourist spot largely amongst young partygoers, until 2008 when the island was bought by a developer and the main resort was closed down. The new owners have faced fierce opposition to developing the island. When we visited the island, the old resort was derelict and fenced up, and the only visitors were a handful of backpackers riding by ferry and staying in huts near the beach and fellow yachties. We had a wander around and a couple of beers at the only place that seemed to be open.
What are you doing, Lee?
Dismantling the toilet again.
Right.
Because it's broken. It's backflowing, so you get a disgusting smell. So I had to dismantle it, and this is one of the things I have to replace. Two of the things. So this is a Joker valve, which is a bit of a joke at the minute. It's covered in sediment.
And tell us about the smell.
It smells pretty disgusting. So I've got to replace these. This is actually just, I think it's mainly just crystalline. It's caused by urine crystallizing. So this is my job for now. It's actually a job that I've done every single time because Jason.
Doesn't look good.
That's not good.
What are you doing?
Making muffin.
What kind of muffins?
Chocolate chip muffins. They're from a packet. They're quite good. Take 20 minutes to cook. So I have hot muffins and coffee shortly. Actually I need to put eggs in. I forgot about the eggs. I've just done the toilet, which wasn't such a pleasant job.
Yeah, I wanted to know whether your muffins are moist.
My muffins are rather moist. So I made 12 chocolate muffins, so here they are. Little chocolate chip ones, pretty tasty, still hot from the oven.
Break it open, let's see if it's moist.
Kind of moist, in a dry sort of way.
Wake up with me sleeping silent. Let it sink under your skin, sink under your skin. Look at me like it's a lesson on how to take it all in, take it all in. Like I'm romanticizing every gesture. In love I thought you knew me better. As I string together every letter.
After leaving Great Keppel Island and an overnight stop at Pearl Bay, next stop was Middle Percy Island, part of the Northumberland group, which were named by the explorer Matthew Flinders in 1802. We finally got some wind, so got the sails up and sailed all the way up to Middle Percy and anchored off the west coast. A popular stopover with sailors on the way to the Whitsunday Islands, with its great walking trails and stunning white sandy beaches, we took the tender ashore and explored. The island was leased by the White family for 40 years, up until they moved to the mainland in the 1960s. There's just one homestead on the island now, which was quite a trek to reach, and the current tenant sells delicious honey and mango chutney to passing sailors. We found the island beautiful with plenty of wildlife and spotted numerous kangaroos and thousands of butterflies. Beautiful beach, beautiful white sand and palm trees. We're at Middle Percy on the way to Mackay. So we just stopped off here after a sail yesterday, so we wanted a bit of a break day. So we just thought we'd come here, and we're going to head off, but we're going to spend an extra day here to recuperate from the long trip yesterday. But it is a beautiful spot. It's like a hut where apparently people, yachties, leave different memorabilia from the boats.
And I'm always giving up, Aussie frozen under your eyes. Staying in the sky.
Supposed to say action.
I'm not gonna make love, but I'm down to give a fuck. I'm not gonna make love, and I'm always giving up. Lost the frozen under your eyes. Stay hidden under disguise. Can't remember what it feels like to be surprised. Lay awake, why?
After a couple of days at Middle Percy, we headed off north to Double Island, where we anchored for the night on the way to Mackay. Whilst we saw a bunch of turtles in the anchorage, the swell was hideous, which made for an uncomfortable night's sleep. The next day we woke early and navigated through dozens of coal cargo ships anchored off the coast and waiting to dock at Hay Point to collect coal to deliver around the globe. We arrived in the marina at Mackay after being away from port for the last 12 days, the last being at Southport. We had covered 1,000 nautical miles since we left Sydney. I had to fly back to Sydney for a couple of days and I've returned to resume the trip. Next episode of Sailing Santorini, we spend a few weeks sailing around the spectacular Whitsunday Islands and partying at the coastal town of Airlie Beach.